kind and forgiving. I'm on the board, I'm a member at large, and this is my first time doing the announcements. So be kind and forgiving. My name is Matt Maurer. I am a him. I guess I already said I'm on the board. I'm just going to read this. There's a lot going on at the UUCA, and there are many places you can find this information. The order of service, weekly announcements, newsletter, Instagram, Facebook, website, common area, TV, bulletin boards, etc. If you are new, you may also fill out and return the blue card that's in the pocket in front of you. That will let us know who you are and give us a chance to get back to you if you would like that. So if you would like us to contact you, please do that. So here are some things that are going on this week. Wednesday at Wednesdays? I don't think this is right. I think it's Monday because I go on Monday. Monday at 7 p.m. the UU meditation group happens. I guess this must be the online group on Wednesdays. I don't go to that. On Wednesdays at 7 p.m. there's an online meditation. Tuesday, September 3rd at 6:30, UU the Vote in the common room. I hope you'll come. There will be food. And if you bring food, there'll be more food. I like to start with food, that's me. Saturday, September 7th at 2 p.m., Voter Empowerment Workshop. It's co-sponsored by our Good Trouble team and the CSRA League of Women Voters. Register at, and there's a web address here, but I'll let you find that elsewhere. It's too long to read. Next Sunday, the 8th, there's an in-gathering water ceremony and the 70th anniversary. Please bring water from your homes for our annual water ceremony during the worship. Following the service at 1 p.m., you'll be invited to the Filson's house for a church potluck. And that's the announcements for today.
My God. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I assume she has access to all this things. I think she hasn't said that she won't even be access. Yeah. Just all you have to do is Google Bot. For God's sakes. I'd say how hard is that to Google Bot?
Oh, wow. There must be something else going on, or?
I'm not getting any audio.
Oh. I'm looking at what the group here is over here.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that.
It'd be nice if I could eat any of it.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta. We are here as we create a beloved community to act together in compassion, empowering us to promote a just society. My name is Chris Maurer, I answer to she, her, and today I'm co-creating this service with Reverend Charley Earp Josef, Patchen, our music director, the talented folks at our tech deck, which we couldn't do without, and all of you helping to shape this moment together. Our guest speaker, Reverend Charley Earp, currently lives in Evanston, Illinois, and has been a resident of Cook County, Illinois since 1986, and living there for over a decade in both Evanston and Chicago. He graduated from Midville Lombard Seminary in 2018 and was ordained by the People's Church of Chicago and the Unitarian Church of Quincy, Illinois in 2021. He served the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Decatur, Illinois as their sole minister in 2022 and 2023, and as chaplain resident at Edward Hospital of Naperville, Illinois in 2023 and 2024. And we welcome Reverend Earp and are so happy that he's here with us today. Whether you're here in person or joining us virtually, we welcome and celebrate all of who you are. Our chalice lighting. Reverend Earp.
All right. Good morning. I want to just take a brief second to thank Reverend Nick Filzen, who I did go to seminary with, for inviting me to be with you this morning. My chalice lighting words are taken from famous radical Catholic Dorothy Day, who fought for peace and justice for working and poor people for most of her life. What we would like to do is change the world, make it a little simpler for people to feed, clothe, and shelter themselves by fighting for better conditions, by crying out unceasingly for the rights of workers, of the poor, of the destitute. We can change the world. We can work for an oasis, a cell of joy and peace in a harried world. Blessed be.
Would you rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, My Life Flows On in English Song?
Now is the time in our service when we share our joys and sorrows. And now we will sing our children out to their faith development. Our meditation will be by Reverend Earp.
We all know we are held in the spirit of life and love. May we join our hearts, our minds, our will, and our actions with the spirit of life and love as we lift up all these joys that have been spoken and all the joys that have not been spoken. May we also lift up and join our hearts with the spirit of life and love as it holds all who suffer, those who are poor, those who are sick, those who may be dying, those who have lost loved ones. All are held in one universal spirit of life and love. And may we every day yield our hearts to the spirit of life and love. Blessed be and amen.
Our church needs money to continue our work and contributions to our community, our social justice advocacy, and to keep our church healthy and alive. But we also need volunteers to help to do this work, to donate time and talent as well. So whatever you are able to give, no matter how large or small, is appreciated, and you are always welcome in this beloved community. Will the ushers please come forward? And now we will hear from Reverend Arp. And just to remind everybody, there will be a talk back at 12:30, so please come and stay. Reverend Arp.
Thank you so much. I once again want to repeat how much I am grateful to Reverend Nick for inviting me to be with you today on what is personally a very important time of year, which is the recognition of Labor Day. I also want to thank Chris Maurer and Joseph Patchen for their work with me the past few weeks as I've been wrapping up my work as a hospital chaplain has been just overwhelming. And I've missed a few emails and texts and so on. So I really appreciate their patience. Would you take a moment just to recenter ourselves and maybe think about who today have you encountered that you would say is working or poor? And if no one today, when in the most recent past have you encountered someone that you knew had far less means than was perhaps necessary for a full sustaining life? Please join me for a moment here. Thank you. So I bring you greetings from Evanston, Illinois, which is on the north border of the city of Chicago. And on a Labor Day weekend, Chicago is a very opportune place to be hearing from. According to Google Maps, I'm about 838 miles from your church, which, thanks to the wonders of Zoom technology, we can be together. Chicago is historic in the labor movement. If you've ever heard of the Haymarket Affair, and you can go and look it up on Wikipedia, the Haymarket Affair in 1880, I believe it was 1886. 1886, there was a gathering on May 4th to fight for an 8-hour working week. Now, you may not realize, but prior to the 1800s and in the 1800s, an 8-hour working day was not universal. It was rare. Most people work much longer hours. And the labor movement in the 1800s mobilized to change that condition for all Americans. But during the Haymarket Affair, there were some radicals in the audience who threw a bomb, killed a police officer, and as a result, many folks were hanged for participating in the Haymarket rally, even if there was no real proof that they had actually had anything to do with the bombing. And ever since, the United States has been in an interesting position in relation to the labor movement and its demands. I come to you today as a Unitarian Universalist minister who identifies as being from the working class. Until I served the church in Decatur in 2022 and 23, I had never made more than a living wage. I worked in the travel industry for almost 15 years and never made more than $15 an hour until the very final year that I worked for them, which is just as I was finishing my seminary program. I have never had an undergraduate degree. I've gone multiple times, but because of the financial barriers to a higher education that have only gotten worse in my adult life, I have not been able to complete my undergraduate degree. Thankfully, Meadville Lombard Seminary recognized my talents and admitted me as a provisional student, and I graduated in the mandated 3 years. But I carry with me the years of financial precarity and insustainability, as I would be threatened with eviction by a couple of landlords for being 11 days late with my rent. I did eventually get it to them on the 11th day, but as it is, I was living paycheck to paycheck with 2 children in the city of Chicago. So Labor Day is deeply personal for me. Being here in the city of Chicago, on the edge of the city of Chicago at this time, is deeply personal and is a real sense a part of my ministerial calling. So I want to talk a little bit about what Unitarian Universalists should be doing, how we should be relating to the working people in our world. And we encounter them every day. We encounter them in the supermarket. We encounter them in our workplaces. Often they're the cleaning crew of our workplace. If our workplace is not a working class workplace, but is primarily white collar. And I suspect if Augusta UU Church is anything like most UU churches I've been involved with, many of you are what we would call white collar and not blue collar. And so just listen to a voice across that class difference. So there are two things that I think are very important for Unitarian Universalist congregations and all progressive religious congregations, because it's not just something that UUs need to work on. This is something that everyone in the United States, everyone around the world needs to be aware of and work on. And the first is classism. When I walk into a Unitarian Universalist congregation, if I'm not wearing my jacket, I'm not wearing my stole, I dress as if I am an ordinary person. And I find that as I get to know people and have conversations with them, I become aware of the difference in their class experience. Their experience of the economic realities of the United States is dramatically different than mine. As I say, I dropped out of college when I was 19 for the first time because I ran out of money. I had a scholarship. I got one C in a class and they took away my scholarship. And I said, that's okay. I didn't like that school anyway, but that was an excuse. If I could have stayed in school, I would have. So classism is something that Unitarian Universalists need to work on. We have been working on anti-racism, on not making assumptions about Black, brown, indigenous, or people of color that come among us, as well as when we're out in the world, not within our congregational settings. And we should continue that work, but we also need to apply it to those who are of a different economic status than we are. And as I say, they're all around us. They are the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans make much lower wages than the average white collar worker in our country. And one sign of this is the fact that the US minimum wage is still $7.25 at the federal level. Now, most states and many municipalities have raised it. Chicago currently has a living wage of $15. I've been working this past year at a hospital as a chaplain for $17 an hour because I was considered a student, not a professional accredited chaplain. I've been working towards that as one of the ministry skills I want. I don't know if I'll end up as a chaplain. I hope to return to the parish ministry. But I've been making $17 an hour, which gives me about $1,000 check every 2 weeks, which my wife's check is a little bit better than that. She does have a bachelor's degree. She works for a university, Northwestern University. We make relatively good income from that. But my contribution to that has been much less. And I have always been the lower wage worker in our family because I never finished that undergraduate degree, which is a marker, which is a way to access higher education. I remember in 1981 when I was on the verge of graduating from high school, when all my friends were applying for Pell Grants and student loans and all of this stuff. And that was the year that Ronald Reagan came into office. That was the year one of the very first things he did was cut college education funding across the board. And many of my friends no longer qualified because they were just a little bit too middle class to receive any higher education funding, or very little compared to the recent past. You may know that in the 60s and in the 50s, college educations were almost fully funded in the United States, despite the fact that we don't have fully paid education. But the grants and loans that were available made it possible for many more people to get a college education than can today. Because today, the federal funding has been cut and the college tuitions are growing at an astronomical rate. Along with all the other kinds of inflation we're aware of, this is one of the most egregious that cuts off the life possibilities for millions in the United States. And so be aware of classism. Be aware that just because a person may appear, quote, normal, they may actually be experiencing economic hardship. And on this Labor Day, what better day than to remember the economic hardships of the majority of those in our society. So I'm going to go a little deeper here because it isn't just classism as a personal prejudice or as an ignorance that we may be carrying with us, but we all live within a system that we call capitalism. And yes, I apologize, but I'm going to go there. I have identified as a socialist since 1994. I've identified as a communist even more recently. And I don't make any apologies for that. I believe that ending capitalism before it ends us through the fossil fuel industry, through the degradation of our ecosystem, through the impoverishment of millions around the world, we need to come up with something better. And for me, that name for that is socialism. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Some people call it enlightened capitalism. Hey, if it really does end poverty and the stress of the world, I'm all for it. But I'll continue to call it socialism if you don't mind. So we do need to be aware that this is not a personal problem. It's not that I was less motivated, that I was more ignorant and less capable of surviving in a college environment. Let me tell you, I was practically a straight A student in Meadville Lombard. I was practically a straight A student in the last time I tried to get a bachelor's degree. I'm very smart, but I have lacked the financial means to obtain an undergraduate degree. And yes, I am deeply in debt to get my ministry degree from Meadville Lombard, for which I am forever grateful. But as you know, this loan pause that began during COVID is about to run out, and I've got to take care of my student loans. And that's going to make my finances very difficult because I just finished a job and I don't know where my next job is coming from. I'm applying to churches, I'm applying to chaplaincy positions, but I don't know what my future is going to be. And I don't blame individuals who may be ignorant about the struggles of working and poor people because our society tries to mask it. Our newspapers, our TV, they try to mask it. When do you see working class people? I mean, we have had, Two Broke Girls. We've had comedies that do try to talk about the working class, but they often cover it over with laugh rather than the sheer struggle and frustration of being poor or working class in the United States. Now, I've been, I realize that we're just at a half an hour, and I don't know that I've got another 20 minutes of message for you. Maybe we'll end a little early. That's okay, I hope. But I do want to sort of, again, I've been saying, notice the working people in your life today, in this week, in the weeks to come, in the years to come. Try to notice those people who work, who struggle. And I know that you probably have some in your congregation because Unitarian Universalism is very attractive, especially for people like myself who are raised in very strict Christian backgrounds and need something different, but we still kind of want to go to church. And I know that that story can be told over and over again. I was especially touched by the story of the man who came to Joys and Sorrows and said he'd been unchurched since the age of 14. Who knows why he left his church, but I can remember being 14 and not liking some of the rules that were being told to me in my Christian church, and I might have left had my dad not been a pastor. Yeah, couldn't really walk away. And so I know that Unitarian Universalism can be a haven for so many in our world who, and especially in the United States, who have been treated to a very toxic form of Christian religion. We talk about Christian nationalism. I'm glad that conversation is happening because Christian nationalism was taking hold in the 70s when I was a kid. I didn't understand it at the time because I had been taught a very different understanding of politics, that the world was about to end. Jesus was about to come back. The Antichrist was coming. Armageddon was on its way. We should not do anything about politics. We should just try to save every soul we could so Jesus would take us to heaven. I don't know if any of you were raised with that theology, but many of us were. Many Christians are raised with that don't worry about politics, just get ready to go to heaven. That has changed. The evangelical mainstream has changed from that theology of ignore politics, just save souls, to let's impose a Christian nationalist, patriarchal, classist ethic on the world. And we, of course, saw this reach one of its peaks in the rollback of Roe v. Wade by the current Supreme Court. And let me tell you, that is a class issue because the women who can't afford abortions, can't afford to travel from their state to a safe state for an abortion are going to be poor and working class women and other persons who can bear children. We know this. This is a class issue. Every issue, if you look closely enough, probably has a class dimension. So what I'm hoping, if you don't become a flaming communist socialist like me, at least raise your class consciousness just a little bit. Recognize that every day you encounter people who may not have it as good as you do. Even the hardest hit, those of us who make, currently $17 an hour, there are people who make much less than that because yes, that minimum wage is $7.25, and people who work in restaurants, they don't get much more than that because they're expected to make it up in tips. And that's another economic injustice. So as you go through your life today, please, and through as the next weeks and the next months and the next year, recognize on this, in the honor of Labor Day, those who work for a living and who don't have enough to have a fulfilling life, remember them. Our covenant that we just passed this summer, and hallelujah, I voted for it, and I'm really excited to talk about this covenant that we have passed. We have two parts of this covenant, and actually there's three. There's three parts of this covenant that to me perfectly name how we are to understand the poor and disadvantaged in our world, the working class. First, we are called to put love at the center. You may notice I'm wearing a t-shirt that has love at the center. I love this t-shirt. You can order it from Awesome Selkie Designs. Go on Facebook, you can find it. Love is at the center. Unitarian Universalism, I love the original 7 principles, and I knew that love was in there between the lines if you read it, but I'm so glad we took it out of, we started saying the quiet part out loud. We are a movement for love and liberation in our world, and we want to change our world. And so I'm very proud to be a part of a denomination that does make that at the center. The other element of our covenantal values that I want to lift up here is justice. It reads, we work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all feel welcome and can thrive, and we commit to working actively for social justice in our world. Again, I'm so glad that we don't just have principles, we have commitments in our new covenant. And the next point of the covenant that I want to lift up is equity, because this is directly speaks to the economic conditions. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, with love, with compassion, and we will work to change the conditions in our world that diminish that dignity, that turn us away from compassion. We are taught, look out for number one. That's, the watchword of American individualism. Well, I am so glad to be a part of a movement that is beginning to recognize that we are collective. We are interdependent on one another. And yes, that was in the original 7 principles, and it's still true today. We are interdependent. Those who are working class, those who are poor, matter just as much as, and maybe more than the wealthiest person alive. I want to thank you for, again, thank Reverend Nick. I want to thank Chris and Joseph for working with me this week. I want to thank all of you for being here and listening today. We're going to take a moment of silence, and then we're going to close with some music, and I'll come back for a benediction in a moment. So I like moments of silence. They're just me. They're what I do. So just take another moment of silence. Remember again that we are all interconnected, rich and poor alike.
Amen and blessed be. Would you rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, Solidarity Forever, to the tune of the Battle Hymn of the Republic? These words go by quickly, so we'll take this a little bit slowly.
A closing word.
All right. Thank you. So I'm going to read some selections from We Labor in Love. On this Labor Day, we honor work, physical and mental, paid and unpaid, joyous and heartbreaking. May we labor in gratitude. May we labor in joy. May we labor in love. May we join together to create work that blesses us all people and the planet, this Labor Day and all Labor Days to come. May our work and all work serve humanity and all living beings. Blessed be.
you.